You wake up tomorrow like you always do. The light leaks through the window. The world continues. People argue, laugh, scroll, complain. Somewhere a politician gives a speech. Somewhere else a scientist runs an experiment. Somewhere a child is born. Everything feels stable. But stability is a strange illusion. Because beneath it there are probabilities, invisible currents, decisions made by people you will never meet, systems too complex for any one mind to understand. And among those possibilities there is always one, quiet, looming, statistically real, where everything ends. Not gradually, but suddenly. A signal misread, a radar glitch, a human hesitation that lasts 1 second too short, a command given, confirmed, executed, and within minutes the sky itself becomes something unrecognizable. This is not speculation. It is a possibility that has existed for decades, and yet here you are, alive, reading this, still inside a world that has not ended. So the question is not just why hasn't it happened yet? The deeper question is, why does it always seem like it never will? There's a subtle assumption most people carry without ever examining it, that somehow the future will resemble the past, that crises will come close but not too close, that disasters will threaten but not fully arrive, that humanity somehow will always pull back from the edge. This belief doesn't come from evidence, it comes from experience, because every day you've ever lived has reinforced it. You have only experienced survival, you have only seen the world continue, and that creates a powerful illusion that continuation is guaranteed. But what if that illusion isn't about the world? What if it's about you? Imagine this carefully, not as a theory, not as science fiction, just as a logical observation. You cannot experience a moment in which you do not exist. It sounds obvious, but follow it further. Every memory you have, every perception, every thought exists only because you are there to have it. The instant that condition fails, experience itself stops. There is no after from your perspective, no darkness, no silence, no awareness of absence, just nothing, which means something very strange follows. Any event that completely eliminates your ability to observe cannot appear in your experience, not because it doesn't happen, but because you're not there when it does. Now extend that idea outward. Think about global catastrophes, events so large, so overwhelming, that they don't just threaten individuals, they erase entire populations, entire systems, entire civilizations. A full-scale nuclear war is one of those events. If it happens in a way that ensures your death, then from your perspective it never becomes something you witness. It becomes a boundary your experience cannot cross. So what does that mean? It means that every version of reality you can ever find yourself in must, by necessity, be one where you continue, where something, anything, prevents the total interruption of your awareness. This doesn't require luck. It doesn't require protection. It only requires one simple condition, that you are still there to observe. Now pause, because this is where things begin to feel uncomfortable. You've lived through a world filled with close calls, moments in history where the margin between survival and catastrophe was thin enough to vanish if even one detail had shifted. A misunderstood message, a misinterpreted signal, a different person making a different decision, and yet in every one of those moments the outcome aligned in a way that allowed you and billions of others to continue existing. It feels like history worked out. But consider another possibility, that you are not observing all of history. You are only observing the version of history that includes you. All other possibilities, every outcome where things went differently, are not part of your experience, not because they didn't occur, but because you are not in them. This is not about optimism. It's not about believing things will be okay. It's about recognizing a selection effect. You only ever find yourself in situations compatible with your existence, not because those situations are common, but because they are the only ones you can witness. Now imagine this applied across time. Every near disaster, every avoided catastrophe, every moment where things could have gone wrong but didn't. From your perspective, they will always resolve in a way that allows your story to continue, even if that resolution is incredibly unlikely, even if it defies expectation, even if from an outside view it looks like an anomaly. Because the alternative, where things do go wrong in a way that ends your experience, is something you cannot observe. So it disappears from your narrative entirely. And over time this creates a pattern, a subtle, almost invisible bias, where the world appears safer than it actually is, where survival feels normal, where continuation feels expected. But that pattern is not necessarily reflecting reality as a whole. It's reflecting the narrow slice of reality that includes you. Now let's go deeper, because this idea doesn't just apply to small events. It scales to everything, including the largest, most devastating possibilities we can imagine. If a global catastrophe occurs in most possible outcomes, but in a small number of outcomes something prevents it, or allows you to survive it, then from your perspective, those rare outcomes become your entire reality. You don't experience the majority, you only experience the exceptions, and those exceptions begin to feel like the rule. This leads to a strange conclusion. Not that catastrophe cannot happen, but that you may never witness it happening in a way that ends you. And that creates a kind of invisible filter, where your experience is biased towards survival, no matter how unlikely that survival becomes. At first this might sound comforting, as if there's some hidden guarantee, some strange assurance that no matter what happens, you will always find yourself in the version of events where you make it through. But think carefully, because this is not protection, it's selection. It doesn't prevent disaster, it only determines what you can experience, and that difference changes everything. Because in the scenarios where disaster does occur, it still happens, completely, fully, with all its consequences. The only thing that changes is whether you are there to see it, and if you are not, then from your perspective it's as if it never existed. Now imagine the implications, not just for you, but for everyone else, because this effect is not collective, it is individual. Each person's experience is filtered through their own survival, which means there is no shared guarantee, no universal protection, only isolated perspectives, each confined to the realities where they continue, and this creates a disturbing asymmetry. From your point of view, things always work out. From the broader view, they often don't, and the gap between those two perspectives can become enormous. Now picture a future moment, a crisis more severe than any before. Tensions escalate, systems fail, decisions are made under pressure, the probability of catastrophe is high. From an external perspective it might even seem inevitable, but from your perspective, something happens. A delay, a miscommunication, an unexpected intervention, and the catastrophe doesn't occur, or it occurs, but in a way that you survive. Barely, improbably, against all odds. And afterward you look back and think, we got lucky. But what if it's not luck? What if it's simply the only type of outcome you can ever observe? And what if, in countless other versions of that same moment, things didn't resolve that way? What if in most outcomes the worst did happen? You just aren't there to remember it. This is where the idea becomes unsettling, because it suggests that your experience is not a reliable guide to reality. It's a filtered version, a narrow corridor through a vast landscape of possibilities, and that corridor is defined by one rule: you must still exist within it. As time goes on, this has consequences, because the longer you live, the more opportunities there are for catastrophic events to occur. Statistically, the chances of avoiding all of them should decrease. And yet, from your perspective, they never reach zero, because the moment they do, your experience ends. So you continue, moving through increasingly unlikely sequences of events, surviving situations that from an outside view should have ended differently. And each time the same thought repeats: that was close. But close calls accumulate, and over time something strange happens. The world begins to feel more fragile, more unpredictable, as if the margin for survival is shrinking, but you're still here. Which means by necessity, you are navigating through the rare paths where survival remains possible, even as those paths become narrower, even as they become harder to explain. Now consider what that might look like at the extreme. Not just avoiding catastrophe, but surviving it. A global event occurs, widespread destruction, collapse of systems, massive loss of life, and yet somehow you remain, not because the event didn't happen, but because your path through it was one of the few that allowed continuation. From your perspective, it feels like survival. From a broader perspective, it's something else entirely. It's an outlier, an exception, a thin thread of continuity through overwhelming disruption. And the more severe the event, the thinner that thread becomes. But as long as it exists, you follow it, because it's the only path you can experience. Now ask yourself something honestly. If you were to survive something like that, what kind of world would you wake up into? What kind of world would still be standing around you? Not the one you know, not the one filled with noise, movement, and billions of overlapping lives. A quieter one, a thinner one, a world where the absence is louder than any sound, because survival, in this sense, does not guarantee anything except one thing, that you are still conscious inside it. It does not guarantee comfort. It does not guarantee safety. It does not guarantee meaning, only continuation. And that distinction is where the idea becomes truly unsettling, because when people imagine survival, they imagine relief, they imagine escape, they imagine stepping out of danger back into something familiar. But here, survival is not an escape from catastrophe. It is the narrow condition that remains after catastrophe has already done its work, which means, if an event large enough actually unfolds, something that reshapes the world completely, then the version of reality you experience is not the untouched one. It is the one where everything changed, except the fact that you are still there. Now think about that carefully, because it removes the comforting version of survival. It replaces it with something colder. You are not protected from the event. You are only filtered through it. If the event can occur in a way that still allows your awareness to continue, then that is the version you find yourself in. Even if that version is worse, even if that version is unbearable, even if that version makes you question why survival even matters. This is where the illusion breaks. Because earlier the idea almost sounded like a hidden advantage, as if no matter what happens you somehow remain on the safe side of reality. But now it becomes clear. There is no safe side. There is only the side where you are still able to observe, and observation does not care about quality. It does not care about happiness. It does not care about whether the world is worth living in. It only cares about one condition: you are still there. That's all. So if a catastrophe unfolds in a way where survival is technically possible, but only barely, only painfully, only in isolation, then that is enough. That becomes your path. And this leads to a darker realization. The more extreme the event, the more extreme the survival conditions may become, because the easier, more comfortable survival paths might disappear, leaving only the unlikely ones, the harsh ones, the ones that technically preserve life but strip away almost everything else. Now imagine a future shaped like that, not an instant end, not a clean disappearance, but a long aftermath, infrastructure gone, communication silent, cities reduced to empty shells, not necessarily everywhere, but enough that the world no longer functions as a system, and in that world, you are still there. You move through it, you adapt to it, you make sense of it as best as you can, and every day there is a quiet question that never fully leaves. Why did I survive? Why this version? Why this path? And the answer, if you follow the logic we've been building, is not heroic. It's not meaningful in the way we usually hope for. It's structural. You are here because this is one of the paths where you being here remains true. That's it. Now consider how that changes the way you think about risk. Because normally, when people think about catastrophic events, they imagine two outcomes: survival or death. Binary, simple. But this idea replaces that with something more complex. A spectrum of survival, ranging from comfortable continuation to extreme, improbable endurance, under conditions you would never choose. And if your experience is biased toward continuation, then the extreme ends of that spectrum cannot be ignored, because they may be the only paths left in certain scenarios. This is why the idea stops being comforting, because it suggests that survival is not always aligned with well-being. It only aligns with existence. Now step back for a moment, because this isn't just about hypothetical futures. It's about how you interpret the present. Right now, the world feels stable enough. There are problems, yes, conflicts, tensions, uncertainties, but nothing that has fully broken the system. And because of that, it's easy to assume that this stability will continue, that somehow things will remain within manageable bounds. But remember what we discussed earlier. Your experience is not a neutral sample of reality. It is a filtered one. You have only ever seen the paths where things continued, so of course continuation feels normal, but that doesn't tell you how likely it actually is. It only tells you what you've experienced so far, and that difference matters, because it means your intuition about the future may be shaped by a bias you cannot escape, a bias toward survival, a bias toward continuity, even if objectively the situation is more fragile than it appears. Now here's where the idea becomes even more serious, Because if your personal experience tends to hide the full range of outcomes, then relying on that experience to guide decisions can be dangerous. You might underestimate risk. You might assume that things will work out. You might delay action because so far nothing irreversible has happened. But that reasoning is based on incomplete information. It ignores the outcomes you never get to see, and those unseen outcomes may be the majority. So what does that mean for how you should act? It creates a strange kind of responsibility, because even if your own experience seems protected in some way, the broader reality is not. The world as a whole does not share your perspective. It includes all outcomes, not just the ones where you are present. And within that full set of possibilities, catastrophic events are real. They occur, they unfold, they affect people, billions of people, regardless of whether you personally witness them. So the question becomes, do you act based on your experience, or based on the full scope of what is possible? Because those are not the same. If you act only on your experience, you might conclude that extreme events are unlikely. After all, they've never happened to you. The world has always continued. Crisis after crisis has resolved. So why would the next one be different? But if you step outside that perspective, even just intellectually, you see something else. You see that the absence of catastrophe in your experience does not mean its absence in reality. It only means you haven't been in the outcomes where it occurred. And that realization changes the stakes, because it means prevention is not about protecting your personal experience. It's about shaping the overall structure of outcomes, reducing the probability of the worst paths, even if you would never directly experience them. Now this leads to a deeply counterintuitive idea. You might be motivated to prevent something that from your perspective you can never witness. You act not because you expect to suffer the consequences, but because others might. Because the world beyond your experience includes those outcomes, and that is where ethics enters the picture, not as a feeling, but as a logical extension. If your perspective is inherently limited, then acting only within that perspective is insufficient. You have to consider what lies outside it, the outcomes you cannot observe, the people you will never become, the timelines that do not include you. And once you do that, the conclusion becomes clear. Even if your personal experience seems insulated, your actions still matter, because they influence the distribution of outcomes as a whole. They shift probabilities. They affect whether catastrophic paths become more or less likely. And that impact exists regardless of whether you personally witness it. So the idea that you will never experience the end does not reduce the importance of preventing it. It increases it, because it removes the illusion that your experience is the full story. Now let's return to where we started, the quiet assumption that the world will continue, that somehow things will not cross a certain line, that disasters will remain near misses, not final outcomes. That assumption feels natural, almost impossible to shake. But now you can see why it feels that way. Not because it is guaranteed to be true, but because your experience is structured to only include the versions where it has been true so far, and possibly where it continues to be true for you. But true for you is not the same as true in general, and that distinction is everything. Because reality is larger than any single perspective, larger than any single observer. It contains outcomes that no one perspective can fully capture, including yours. So where does that leave you? Not safe, not doomed, but aware. Aware that your experience is limited. Aware that survival does not equal security. Aware that the absence of catastrophe in your past does not eliminate it from the future. And most importantly, aware that your choices still matter, not because they guarantee your survival, but because they influence the kind of world that exists at all, the kind of world that others may experience, the kind of outcomes that become more or less real. So act carefully, act responsibly, not because you fear what you will see, but because of what you might never see. Because the most dangerous illusion is not that catastrophe is impossible, it's that your experience is enough to understand it. And once you move beyond that illusion, you stop asking whether the end will come to you, and you start asking something far more important. What can you do to make sure it doesn't come for anyone at all?